with everybody in this office. We're all best friends. I love everybody here.
Yes. Class. I am recording this class. I'm not entirely sure how long recordings will be able to be kept on Blackboard, or even if the recordings will fit on Blackboard, because they only give us a certain amount of space. But nevertheless, I'm recording this lecture, and we'll see what we can do to make it available to everybody. So if you want to go back and see what we said again. Okay, so I'm glad you're all here. Clearly you got my second email. I sent it out a couple of different ways. For some reason, it's the day before class and you haven't gotten an email from me. Certainly email me and let me know, because something might have happened in that communication process. Meanwhile, today I'm going to talk about all the things you need to know to write a college level essay. Okay, let's just scroll up to the top here. Hopefully you can see my class 2 notes here.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody tell me you can see it.
Yay.
Anybody?
Yeah, we can see it.
Can you see my class 2 notes up there on the screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Somebody let me know that. I'm not moving till I know you can
Yes,
see
sir.
it.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, yes.
Yes.
We can see it.
Yes, we can. Yes.
Nobody wants
Can
to
you hear
talk.
us?
Can you hear me?
Maybe
Yeah, we
he
can
cannot
hear
hear
you.
us.
Can you hear us? There's so
Can you
many
hear
people
us?
that are not on mute.
There. Unmute. Okay, so can you hear me out there?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yes.
Thank you. And can you see this class two notes
Yes,
up
sir.
here.
Yes, we see it.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, very good. Okay, so anybody else is not answering, that's too bad. All right, so really, this is the main thing we're going to focus on today: formal versus informal communication. Let's see if I can find that. Hang on one second to make sure we're recording. Yes, we are. Go back to that screen. Here we are. Okay. All of you are already experts in informal communication. You wouldn't be here if you weren't. You can communicate with people fine. You can get your ideas understood without any problem. You can converse. You can even write in an informal way without any difficulty at all. Thing that you need to learn to be able to do at the college level is to communicate and write in a formal fashion. And there's really three aspects of formal communication. Here they are: formal voice, formal structure, and formal vocabulary. That's what we're going to focus on today. These three aspects of formal communication are what you need to adapt. That's how you need to adapt your writing. You need to use these structures, these aspects in your writing for college level. So, what is formal communication? Well, formal communication is exact, it is precise, and it's clear. As contrasted with informal communication, which is vague, confusing, and not clear. Let me give you an example.
I'm sorry, what was the third form of formal communication? It was from formal voice, formal structure, and what else?
Vocabulary.
Vocabulary.
Well, that's not a good example. I thought I had that example on the top of my head, but I don't. Here. Can't get that one. So I have to do a different one. Okay, so I'll give you some examples of the difference between formal and informal communication as soon as it comes back to me. I seem to have forgotten that. Okay, but meanwhile, one of the aspects of formal communication is that you're writing in complete sentences and complete paragraphs. We'll take a look at complete sentences and complete paragraphs in a little bit. Okay, just want to remind you that for the first essay, you're looking for 500 to 600 words, and we're not really looking for research. We're looking for your ideas and your reaction, but you can do research if you want to. Here is the formal structure of a college essay. Basically, we're looking at 5 paragraphs: an introduction, 3 body paragraphs, and a conclusion. You may be used to this from your writing in high school or any place else. So what I want to do with you today is carefully go through the elements of these to begin with. This is formal structure, and there I go with my typing being off. So everybody's muted, so nobody said, oh, you didn't type formal correctly, right? So everybody's out there. Oh,
Well,
it's tricky. All right, here we go.
Mr. Saul.
Sentences that belong in a body paragraph. We'll start with the body paragraphs. And the first sentence in the body paragraph is usually the topic sentence. The topic sentence expresses the main idea of the paragraph. Now, when you're a beginning writer, it's usually better to start your paragraphs with your topic sentence. Later, when you get to be a better writer, or some of you may already be better writers, you realize that the topic sentence does not have to be the first sentence in the paragraph. Sometimes it's the last sentence in the paragraph. Sometimes it's not one sentence at all. Sometimes it's the idea, the main idea of the paragraphs is broken up into more than one sentence. But in the beginning, it's very useful to think of the topic sentence as the first sentence in the paragraph. One of the things you want to do with those topic sentences is use what we call emphatic order. Emphatic order is when you say first, or firstly, or first of all, or the first reason is. Yeah, let's sort of fix that. And then that's what you do in the first paragraph. In the second paragraph, you might start with second, or secondly, or second of all. Come on, stop it. Second of all, or the second reason is, something like that. And of course, in the third paragraph, third or thirdly, or third of all, and so on. This is what we call emphatic order. The reason emphatic order is good is because when you are using emphatic order, you're communicating very clearly to the reader the sequence of the ideas. Also, emphatic order gives you a transition, a built-in transition from one paragraph to the next. You don't have to struggle to move from one paragraph to the next, because emphatic order, when you start a paragraph with emphatic order, it is the transition all wrapped up in itself. So it makes that easier. So I do recommend using emphatic order when you write your topic sentence. This is, of course, the structure of formal writing. All formal writing has the structure, whether it's an essay or whether it's a longer research paper. So the first sentence in a paragraph is a topic sentence. The second sentence in the paragraph is what begins to make your writing more formal. That is a definition of terms. What you do is you take a look at your topic sentence and you see if there are any words that you used in the topic sentence that need to be clarified. Here, I remembered what my example was going to be. Here we go. Okay. So defining your terms is one of the steps that you take when you're writing formally that makes your writing formal. You take a look at your topic sentence and you see if any of the words in there have to be defined. Here, I'll give you an example. Here's an example. Suppose your topic sentence were, love is the most powerful force in the world. Let's say that were your topic sentence. Okay. Or it might be, first of all, because I said to use emphatic order, right? Love is the most powerful force in the world. If that was the topic sentence, I would need to look at it carefully and say, oh, well, are there any words in there? Did I use any terms in there that need to be clarified, that need to be explained? Certainly, right away, I'm saying love is a force, but I thought that love is an emotion, not a force. So I would have to clarify what I mean when I say love is a force. Do something about that, otherwise it's very confusing. Or suppose I look at that most powerful. What do I mean by most powerful? Is it more powerful than Superman, than a speeding bullet, than a locomotive, this kind of thing? What am I trying to say here? So it's a fine sentence. It says it might have an impact emotionally, but in terms of ration, in terms of reason, I would need to define some of those terms, make them clear. So, first step in formal writing in any paragraph is a topic sentence, hopefully using emphatic order. Then the next thing you do is you examine that sentence to see if there are any words in there or any terms in there that you need to clarify. Sometimes you don't have many words in there, and sometimes you do. It depends on how complex your writing is and your topic is. And the next thing that you do in your paragraph is you focus on what is important. Answer the question, why is this main idea important? You've expressed the main idea. You said that up here, right? Your topic sentence is expressing the main idea of the paragraph. And you've clarified the words in the main idea, but then the next thing you do is you focus on what is important about that main idea. How is it important? Why is it important? In fact, that's the main role that you have as a writer, and that is to focus on, I might have said this last time, to focus on what is important. Of all the words you have to put on the page, you're choosing certain words to put on the page in certain order and create certain sentences because you're expressing something that's important. That's why you're focusing on that. Sometimes this can be a question rather than a statement. Depends again on exactly what you're writing about. Questions are legitimate ways, legitimate sentences to use. Let me make this a little smaller since I managed to make it too big. And that's going to be too small. Let's go back here. Okay. So your statement of importance answers the question, what is important about this main idea? And then you take a look at that statement of importance, because this is what you do continuously. You take a look to see if there are any terms that you've used in your statement of importance that need to be clarified or need to be defined. Because what you're continually doing when you're doing formal writing is you're asking yourself, am I being clear? Does it make sense? Can the reader follow what I'm saying? Will the reader be able to understand what I'm saying? One of the big differences between formal writing and informal writing is that formal communication and informal communication is that when you're communicating informally, most often it's face-to-face. And the person with whom you're communicating can do things like ask you a question if they don't understand what you're saying. What does that mean? Repeat yourself. Explain that. I don't understand that. And you have a give and take back and forth. And in that give and take, in that back and forth, that's when you clarify. That's when you find your terms. That's when you explain what you mean if what you're saying is not clear, precise, and exact. And what clear, precise, and exact is what we're looking for in formal communication, rather than vague, confusing, and not clear. So, sentences in a paragraph. Topic sentence, define your term. Statement of importance, define your term. It's this definition of terms, it's this clarification of what you're saying that makes the writing more formal. Another step that makes the writing more formal is that you give an example. Once again, the example focuses on the importance of the main idea. So the paragraph is all about one idea, one main idea, and you are clarifying that main idea, and you're saying what's important about it, and again, clarifying that, and then you give an example of the importance of that idea. True, sometimes you have to introduce that example in some way. But really, this step of providing an example is one of the things that makes it really formal. And what you do is you explain how and why the example shows the importance of the main idea. Don't just assume that the example is self-explanatory and that someone will get what you're trying to say or make the connection on their own between what your example is and the importance. Yes, what's that question? Go ahead.
Okay, so number
Oh,
5.
you're muted. You gotta unmute.
Oh, sorry. So for number
Oh, you
5.
gotta unmute. I can't hear you.
Okay, so in other words, the
I'll unmute. There you are.
okay, so
If you're gonna ask the question, you have to unmute yourself.
We can hear him.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Unmute yourself and ask the question. You can all be unmuted all the time if you want.
No, we can hear him. I think you're the only one who can't hear him.
Can you do that?
Probably he cannot hear.
yeah, I can hear.
You have to do it.
No, the professor is the only one who cannot hear us.
All right. Well, once you figure that out, we'll go on. Let's see if there are any chat questions.
Probably his volume is down
Exactly.
and he
So,
didn't realize.
okay, put that up there. All right, let me just stop sharing for a second. Find the chat. There it is. See if anybody's. We hear. I don't think you hear us. I don't hear you. No, I can't hear you. Number 5 is, yeah, okay. We can hear him. Check your volume. I'll check my volume. How's that? Is that better?
Yeah.
Can you hear us?
Now I can hear you.
Oh,
I
yes.
believe that was my fault and not yours. Okay, we got there. Sometimes it just takes a little extra effort. Okay, could you hear me when I was talking through all of this?
Yeah, we can hear you. It's just you who couldn't hear us.
I hear you, but you, I mean, you could hear me, but I couldn't hear you. My problem. Oh boy. Okay, so I'm just sort of getting this stuff back up here. All right, so let me stop at that moment and ask if there are any questions or something that needs to be clarified. Yes, no. I know somebody had a question.
I have a question.
Yeah, what is it?
Okay, so number 5 is based off of text evidence.
The example. Oh, well, yes and no. Because yes, when you're doing research and when you're using sources, often the example is based on text evidence. However, there are many times when you want to create your own example from your own thoughts that will illustrate the significance of an idea. So yes, often, see, formal writing is not only research. Formal writing is really the expression of your ideas. And so yes, often if you're going to use an example, you want to use an example from research, that's great. And that can often be a definition of terms, or it can be statistics, or it can be a quote from someone, all of which would come from a text, yes. And in our case, for example, in our first essay, we're going to write about the Declaration of Independence. You might very well be using a quote from the text, or since you'll be talking about the different ideas of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, you might have your own example of what the importance of the right to life is, the importance of liberty, the importance of pursuit of happiness. So it's not always the case that number 5, that an example comes from the text, but sometimes it does. It's
Professor,
yes.
I have a question. If the example comes from the text, we need to summarize or we need to express with our words?
So you can, there are 3 different ways to do that. You're right. One way is to summarize, one way is to paraphrase, and one way is to quote. So we'll take a look at that in a little bit, but absolutely. When you're quoting, then you use the quotation marks and you have to cite that source. When you're paraphrasing, that means you're saying the same thing in your own words. And when you're summarizing, you're taking a whole big idea and sort of shrinking it down to a few thoughts of your own, also in your own words. But there are really three different ways to do that. And I'm going to talk about paraphrasing in just a few minutes. So let me get there, and we'll talk about it at that moment in time.
Professor?
Yes.
Are you going to go in depth about plagiarism?
I'm going to try not to go into depth about plagiarism. Plagiarism is really defined as using someone else's words and someone else's ideas without giving someone else the credit. What we are going to do is, when we take a look at MLA formatting, we'll take a look at the proper way to quote, the proper way to paraphrase. For my class, because of what I focus on, and because of the way I ask you to do your writing, usually there's very little trouble with plagiarism. Okay. If you have someone else write the essay for you, that's plagiarism, right? But really, you want to learn to write your own essays so that you can do well on your own and stay away.
I have a question.
Yes.
When we're quoting, would you like us to cite the text that we're quoting from?
You have to cite the text that you're quoting from when you're quoting, and you need to use the MLA citation format.
Okay.
I'm not requiring that you do any citation, any quotations, or any citing for the first essay, right? So for the first essay, we're really going to focus on formal communication, the structure, the voice, the language. And when we get to the second essay, I start asking you to use sources. And by then, I will have had some time talking with you about how to do that. So the first essay is a lot more of your own thoughts than using others. Okay, so for the body paragraphs, really, those are your six main sentences.
Professor?
Yes.
Can you go back down to number 6? Because I didn't get to copy that one down.
Okay. And don't forget, I'm going to send you these notes so you don't have to copy everything.
Okay, sorry.
I'll be sending them either late tonight or tomorrow morning. So
Okay.
it's okay to copy them. That's just fine. And to make your own notes, sometimes it's better when you make your own notes, because when you write
That's what I do. Yeah,
you
I
can
didn't write everything because it's so much.
But I will send you these for sure, and anything else that we put on here. Okay, so basically, those are the sentences that belong in a paragraph, in a formal paragraph. As I said, sometimes you have to introduce your example. You know, this example comes from, you know, blah, 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 something like that. But you don't always have to do that. Certainly not for your first essay. So each paragraph really should have at least 6 sentences. And if you think about that for a moment, if an average sentence is 10 words, 7 to 12 words, an average paragraph is going to have somewhere between 60 and 75 words. And that's one of the ways that you build the essay. Okay. By the way, sometimes when you're defining your terms, you have more than one term to define, and sometimes it takes more than one sentence to define your terms. So again, there's some variable there in terms of what needs, how long each paragraph is, how many words wind up being in each paragraph. But this is the goal of each paragraph, is to do these things. Sometimes you can do a little more, but you really shouldn't do any less. Okay. Those are for the body paragraphs. And remember, here's the structure of the essay itself. So those are 3 body paragraphs. Now I'm going to take a look at the sentences that go in the introduction. Here we are. Okay. Introduction is special because you have the thesis statement. thesis statement expresses the main idea of the essay in much the same way as the topic sentence expresses the main idea of the paragraph. And since it's formal writing, what you need to do, once again, is take a look at that thesis statement that you've written that expresses the main idea of the essay and see if there are any words, any terms that you've used that need to be clarified, that need to be defined.
So the difference between the thesis statement and the topic sentence is that the thesis statement is the main idea of the entire essay and the topic sentence is just the main idea of what that paragraph is focusing on?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. That's right. So your essay may be about, take the first essay, for example. The first essay is going to be about the Declaration of Independence. So the thesis statement of that essay might use the words Declaration of Independence, say there are several really important ideas that have been, that were expressed in the Declaration of Independence of the United States, signed in 1776. Something like that could be your thesis statement. But when you get to the first paragraph, maybe the first thing you're going to talk about might be the right to life. So your topic sentence might be, the first inalienable right expressed in the Declaration of Independence is the right to life. Right? So that first paragraph would be about the right to life, but the whole essay is about the Declaration of Independence. Okay, so much like the other paragraph, you define your terms and then you take a look at what is important about the thesis statement. Right? Same way you were talking about what was important about the main idea of the paragraph. Right? These are really very, very, very similar structures, just that here the thesis statement, as you said, deals with the entire essay. Once again, you need to define your terms. Make sure that when you spoke about the significance, the importance of the thesis statement, you use terms that are clear. Right here, let me take a break for 1 second here. All right, we'll finish this, then we'll talk about clarity of terms. It's a little easier to go through this. Okay, so be sure to define your terms. Here's a thought to keep in mind. The introduction does not have any examples. You don't want to use the phrase, for example, in the introduction. You need that in every paragraph that you write. You will have an example, but in the introduction, there are no examples. Then, the last thing that you do in your introduction is you either preview what comes in your essay. For example, if my thesis statement had been the Declaration of Independence is an important document that everybody should understand, then maybe my preview might be 3 significant ideas in the Declaration of Independence are the inalienable rights of the right to liberty, the right to life, the right to liberty, and the right to pursuit of happiness. That's the kind of sentence you might end your introduction with. Or, alternatively, sometimes what you do is you simply paraphrase your own thesis statement. So the thesis statement winds up being the first sentence and then the last sentence of that same paragraph, but it's a paraphrase. I'm going to talk about paraphrase in a moment. Those are the sentences that belong in introduction. Often, I tell students to be careful about writing the introduction first, because really the process of writing is a process of thinking and thinking through the ideas. And often once you start writing, your ideas change and what you want to say changes. And if you write your introduction first before you write the essay, then sometimes you find that the essay that you've written doesn't really match the introduction because your ideas have changed as you've written. So I often tell students to write the introduction last, after they've finished. You might have a thesis statement, but I often say write the introduction last. Or even if you don't write it last, certainly go back, if you've written it first, go back to your introduction after you've written the entire essay, take a look at the introduction and see if that introduction really does introduce the essay that you wound up with. Of course, at the beginning, this is easier, but as you move on, your essays and research papers and other classes become more complicated, and this whole process is one that you have to look at more carefully. So I recommend definitely, if you've started with an introduction, definitely reread it and go back and take a look at it once you've written the entire essay. Now, the conclusion is really the easiest thing to write, because in the conclusion, what you're doing is you're not giving any examples and you're not saying anything new. You're simply repeating what you've said, summing up, putting together everything that you've said in your essay. But here are the sentences that I recommend. You start with yet another paraphrase of your thesis statement. Say that important idea in another way. Take a look at the topic sentence that you wrote in your first body paragraph and paraphrase that. Then take a look at the topic sentence for the second body paragraph and paraphrase that. And then take a look at the topic sentence in the third paragraph and paraphrase that. And then lastly, you would have one more paraphrase of your thesis statement. So here we go. I did this in outline form so you can see it. Structure of formal essays. Introduction, thesis statement, define your terms, statement of importance, define your terms, paraphrase your thesis statement. Here's a little place you can go if I don't get to tell you enough about paraphrasing. Here's a little resource for you to take a look at paraphrasing techniques. First body paragraph, and so here, this outline. This is an outline that you can follow for all of your essays. It's just a structural outline. It doesn't have the information that you would put in there, but it gives you the structure of your essay. First body paragraph, topic sentence, define your terms, statement of importance, define your terms, example, explain the example. Second body paragraph, exactly the same thing. Third body paragraph, exactly the same thing. And then your conclusion. There you are. Again, I'm sending you this. You can have this. You can just, if you're comfortable writing and you're a really good writer and you have control of your ideas, you can just write it any way you want. I'm not trying to force you to write in this way. However, these are the components of formal writing. If you're not sure, you should follow this outline. Certainly in the beginning, if you're not sure, you should follow this outline. And that way you'll begin to build up the skill of communicating in a formal way. Because these paragraphs, the way I've detailed them, include all of the elements that you need in formal writing. Okay, so let me just stop there for a second. Any question about the structure? All right, let's just scroll all the way back here, right? These are the three things we're looking at today: formal structure, formal voice, and formal vocabulary. That's the formal structure. Let's take a look at another aspect of formal writing. This one. Especially in academia, when you're in college, what you're focusing on is the truth. You're looking to express the truth. Even if the truth is your opinion about the truth, you still want to express it as the truth. It's true. When you're in a creative writing class, sometimes they're always asking your opinion about this, your opinion about that. But in most of your college classes, what you'll be looking for is to express the truth. And the truth is expressed in the third person. When we communicate in a third person, this is the voice of fact, not opinion. It's the voice of objective truth rather than subjectivity. Here, for example, if you write the sentence, I think it's raining outside, what are you really saying? That you think it's raining outside, could be raining outside, could not be raining outside, we don't know. We don't know what the truth is. When you write the sentence, it is raining outside, you're expressing a fact. Right? First one is really just your opinion. I think it's raining outside. The second one is a statement of fact. So what you want to do in formal writing is express the truth, is express facts. And the way you do that is using the third person.
I have a question.
Yes.
Okay, so the rather section, the rather than writing, I think that has to be like an opinion. And so the right one is obviously the truth.
Sure, for formal writing. There's nothing wrong, grammatically, there's nothing wrong with the sentence, I think it's raining outside. To prove it, though, we'd have to open the window, open the door, go out there and look, right? Okay. But if somebody says it's raining outside, you're no longer in doubt, right? You know that that person is expressing what that person believes to be the truth. Here, we don't know whether it's the truth or not. We just know that that person believes that, right? Just think, I could have been here. I believe it's raining outside, right? Doesn't mean that it is raining. This one is a statement of fact. This one is a statement of opinion. In formal writing, we're not looking for opinion. It's true when you use sources, you are using sources that are written by other people, and those people are theoretically experts in their fields, and that's why their work has been published. And it is true, you could argue that the things that those people have said and written in their work are those persons' opinions. Nevertheless, when you're writing at this stage in your college career, you are not an expert, and it is not your opinion that's significant here. You want to reach for the truth, you reach for facts. So you write in the third person. Here, I said it right here. Write exclusively in the third person, right? Never here, we never use I, me, my, you, your, yours. I'll fix my typing. Our, we, ours. Forget it. We don't use those.
Mister, you spelled never wrong.
There you go. Never. There you go. Those are words we don't use because those are first and second person. We gotta stay in the third person. Here, I know I say it again right here. Okay, here. Opinion, opinion. Even this is opinion. Okay. This is a little harder for some people to adapt to, since in informal communication, we're so used to using the first person, especially the second person. When you do this, when you do that, when you do this, when you do that. So when you need, one of the things you need to do, hopefully you'll do it before you hand in your papers, is you'll review your writing for third person only rather than first person, second person. Don't worry, I don't expect everybody to do this perfectly the first time around. So often that's one of the things that I wind up correcting, especially in the first essays, filtering out the first person and second person. Here they are, right? Okay. First person, I and we, and all the other pronouns that go along with that. Second person, you, singular and plural, and all the other pronouns that go along with that. These are the ones we stay away from. We use these. He, she, it, they, singular nouns, plural nouns. These are all very good words to use. So all of our formal writing is third person writing. This is a shift from a real shift from informal to formal. What I just showed you about the structure of the essays, that's a shift also, because you need to make sure you cover all those bases and include all of those things in your essay writing. However, this is a different kind of shift, and you might need to be real careful about the movement from first and second person over to third person. I know, I'm just, these down here, this just repeats what I've already said. For example, here's a sentence. I'm sure that nursing is a fine career. I know we have some nurses out there, right? This is opinion, it's subjective. Rather, if you're gonna write, everyone is sure that nursing is a fine career. That's as simple as the change is, or anyone is sure, or nurses are sure, or doctors are sure, or people are sure, right? Well, any of these, that's a fine formal sentence. This, no, that's subjective, doesn't belong in a formal writing, in a formal essay. I know I keep repeating this. Okay, so first major thing to think about is the structure of formal writing. I gave you the different sentences that belong in the different paragraphs and how they all fit together in an essay. Second thing to think about is to be writing in the third person at all times. Next thing to think about is formal vocabulary. I don't have it actually here. I'm gonna have to stop this share and bring it up. So this is a good time to ask a question if you have a question, because I'm looking for.
Mister, I have a question.
Yes.
Does formal vocabulary mean like a clearest, like specific, like statement?
Formal vocabulary. Oh no, I'm gonna give you formal vocabulary right now. Hang on. I'm glad you're asking the question. That shows that you want to know. Okay, let me just maneuver till we're in the right place. Share this screen here. There we go. Here you go. Here's so what I've put together for you is a very fundamental list for formal vocabulary. Formal vocabulary is a whole way of thinking about your writing, but I'm going to start you off with about 10 very specific words, and you'll see. Here, see this word? Think of, everybody, just in your head, think of a sentence with the word get in it.
I am getting a cheese pizza in Domino's.
And then when I ask you, I want you to share your sentence. Oh, you're sharing your sentence. Okay. Say that again, please.
I am getting a cheese pizza in Domino's.
Okay, now don't answer this next question. Everybody else think of the answer to this question. What does the word get mean in his sentence? Right? It means buying, right? Or purchasing, right? That's what it means. So if you were writing the sentence informally, you would write it the way he said it. If you were writing it formally, you'd simply substitute that word buy or the word get. Somebody else, who's got another sentence with get in it?
I need to get to the mall.
There you go. I need to get to the mall. So, and now you don't answer this. In her sentence, everybody, what does the word get mean in her sentence? I need to get to the mall. I need to go to the mall. I need to travel to the mall. I need to bicycle to the mall. I need to walk to the mall. How are you going to get to the mall, right? Or maybe it means something else. Maybe it means I have to buy some. Maybe I need to get to the mall really means I have to buy something. I have to buy a new pair of shoes. Right? Maybe that's what it really means. So,
Look, boom, and then
one more. Who's got a sentence with get?
I need to go get my prescription.
I need to go get my prescription. And that's really the same as that first one, right? You need to buy it. You need to purchase it. You need to obtain it, right? All of those, mostly those, yeah. So let me ask you all, do you get it? So what does get mean in my sentence? Do you get it?
Understand.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
understand.
That's right. So what I'm saying to you is that word get, and all these informal words that I'm going to show you are really all-purpose words. That's what makes them informal. That's why we use them. When you're talking to your friend outside and you want to say, I need to, travel to the mall, you're not going to use the word travel. You say, I need to get to the mall, or I need to get a pizza or something. But when you are writing, and for some reason, if the person you're speaking to didn't understand what you meant when you said, I need to get a pizza, they could ask you, what do you mean you need to get a pizza? And then you would clarify, however you meant it, you would clarify it. But when you're writing formally, or when you're writing at all, when you write it at one moment in time, and the person reads it at another moment in time, and you're not there for that person to say to you, what do you mean by get? So what you need to do in formal writing is to use the word, the verb in this case, that actually describes what it is you want to do. You're going to buy, I need to get a pizza. Does that mean I'm going to steal it? Could be, right? Depends who you are, right? So we don't know what I need to get a pizza means unless you tell us specifically, I need to buy it, or I need to steal it, or I need to borrow it, whatever. So that word get, and of course, the past tense, right? Or that very lousy word that sounds like rotten, oops, gotten, right? Those are words to avoid completely when you're writing formally. Use the word that actually describes what it is you want to do. You know all these words. It's not as if you don't know the words. It's just that most people are not used to using those words when they're communicating. They're used to using the informal words. The formal words are more exact, more precise, and more clear. This one, get, is confusing, it's vague, and it's not clear. We don't know if you're going to steal that pizza, you're going to buy the pizza, you're going to borrow the pizza, right? I'm just using that as an example. Of course, it's a silly example, but I think you get the idea there. But so one of the words to filter out of your writing is that word get. Here's another one, like. Some people like when they talk, like every third word, like they say, is like. So what you need to do is stay away from that word like, except when it means preference. You save that word like when you mean prefer. I like chocolate, I like vanilla, okay, you can use the word like. But don't use like to mean, for example. Don't use like to mean such as. Use for example, use such as. And we'll talk about those words again at another moment in time. Yeah, this is the proper use of like, this is the prefer. Right? But also, we use the like, I want one just like that. And there, that like means similar, right? So that's what you, or resembling. So comparable. So what you should do when you're writing is not use the word like, but substitute that word for anything else that you know that actually says clearly what you mean by the word like.
Mr. Saul,
Yes.
can I give like an example of like the like section?
So what you did do just now for us is you gave an example of how not to speak formally, because you used that word 3 times in that sentence, in that question.
No, I meant like a different example.
And now you used it again.
Ah,
Okay. So no, I don't want, you've already given us examples. That's okay. You couldn't illustrate what I was trying to say in a better way by asking that particular question. So I say to everybody, asking questions is a good thing, because that's the way we learn most, is by asking questions. No such thing as a stupid question. If you're thinking it as a question, there's a good chance other students in the class are thinking that as a question. And often when you ask questions, it prompts me to explain things either more or better or in a different way. And sometimes that's better for the teaching process. So please definitely do not stop yourself from asking a question at any time. Makes for a better experience for everybody. So I'm giving you this you see it's a list, right? I'm giving you this short list of words. In the beginning, it's a short list. After a while, the list gets bigger and bigger. Okay, but in the beginning, what I've done is I've identified for you the chief informal words that people use in informal communication. And I've given you, we're going to finish going over this list in a moment. And I've given you a bunch of alternatives. These are not the only alternatives. These are just some of the ones I've picked out to show as an example. And you know these. There's no words in here that you don't know. There's no words in here that you're unfamiliar with. It's just that normally you would use the informal word because it's easier. It's simpler. It's what you're used to doing. It's what you should do when you talk to your friends. That's fine. It's what you should do whenever you are communicating in an informal way, because people understand it, and if they don't get it, they'll ask you, what does it mean? But in formal writing, we want to be more precise, more exact, and more clear, so we stay away from those. Here's another one. All right. Now, there's nothing wrong with the word so. It's just that often we overuse that word, as in the expressions so many and so much, right? It's hard to replace those expressions, so many and so much. But really, so many just means very many. So much just means an abundance of. Okay. One of the things I sometimes do for students for homework is say, go find some alternatives for the expression so many, so much. It's hard. So if you need to use the expression so many or so much, if you must use it, that's something that you can do. However, don't use that word so to mean therefore. Man went to the store to buy fruit, so he bought apples, pears, and oranges. Rather say, a man went to the store to buy fruit, therefore he bought apples, pears, and oranges. Or, man went to the store to buy fruit, consequently he bought apples, pears, and oranges. Or as a result, or for this reason, or accordingly, or these words, thus, or hence. All those words basically mean the same thing. They mean so. Now, there are different grammar rules for some of these words. I'm not going to talk about that right now, but I will talk about it soon. And one of the things that happens when you move from a word like so to a word like therefore is that the grammar changes as well. And this is another aspect of changing, of moving your writing from informal, moving your communication from informal communication to more formal communication. Because the structure of the writing, the grammar that's required when you use the word so, is more simple than the structure of the writing when you use words like therefore and consequently. And when the structure of your writing becomes more complex, often your writing garners more respect. And one thing you want more than anything else is you want people to respect your writing. You don't want them to think that your writing is not serious. So when you move your vocabulary from the informal vocabulary to the formal vocabulary, one of the things that happens is that your readers consider your writing differently. It's not, oh, this person's writing the same way they speak in the street, whatever. It's, oh, here's writing that I need to think about. And that's what you want. You want your readers to think about what you're writing. After all, as I've said a million times already, as a writer, you're trying to express things that are important, ideas that are important. It's your job as a writer to pick out and figure out what's important about your topic, what's important about your thesis, what's important in the paragraph, and explain it and communicate it. And since you're focusing on important factual truths, you want your readers to be focusing on important factual truths. And so if you communicate those things in a formal way, which is precise, which is exact, which is clear, then the readers will get it. They'll understand what you're saying, and they'll respect what you're saying. And they may not agree with what you're saying, but they'll certainly understand it and believe that you think of that, of what you're writing, as the truth. So moving from the informal to the formal vocabulary is another very big step. When you come, and there's some more, and I'll show you some more. I just want to say these couple of things. So when you use the formal structure, that means you organize your thoughts in a formal way, and you clarify things by defining your terms, and you explain things by giving examples. And when you use the voice of truth, the voice of fact, third person, rather than the voice of opinion, and when you use formal vocabulary, which is precise, exact, clear, then your writing becomes more formal and therefore more respected, and therefore people will pay more attention to it, and that's what you're after at the college level. Besides the fact that when you do this stuff that I just told you, and you write this way in your other classes, your teachers will notice that, because that's what they're looking for. They're looking for people who express themselves in a formal way and understand this formal manner of communication. And so when you move to this more formal manner of communication, away from the informal to the formal, your teachers notice, and you do better in school, get better grades. Teacher pays more attention to what you're saying. Teacher takes what you're saying more seriously. Teachers have more trust in your ability to understand the work. So that's just sort of a practical reason for doing this, aside from the need to communicate clearly. Okay, just a few more of these words. There's not too many. I'll give you this list. You don't have to remember everything. You can use the list before you hand in your essays. It's really good if when you proofread for yourself, you take a look at the structure, you take a look at third person versus first and second person, and you take a look at these informal words that I'm giving you and filter them out of your writing. As I said, sometimes when you change from the informal word to the more formal word, you also have to change the structure of your sentences. Sometimes the grammar is different, and that also improves your writing and makes your writing more. Okay, let's just look at a couple more of these. Here, the word to. This is really the second word that English language learners learn when they're learning English, when the kids, right? Your brother gets an ice cream and you say, me too, right? The first word is me, the second word is to. So this is a basic word in English. Stay away from it. Never, ever, ever use it in formal writing. Certainly, it can mean these things. Right? Me too means and me, also me, as well as me in addition, right? So that's what to means. But it's also used to mean in the expressions too many and too much, right? It means, I keep doing that, it means an excessive amount, an overabundance, all right? So if so many can mean an abundance of, right? Too many means an overabundance. Seriously, of the 4 words that are listed here, this is the one absolutely positively never to have in your writing. I also say don't put this one in, and only use this for preference, and stay away from this one. Here's another expression. It's not actually a word, it's a little phrase, but a lot of times, a lot of students use this, a lot of expressions like this one, a lot of the time to say what they're saying. Stay away from the expression a lot of. There are lots of different things that you can say instead of the words a lot of. This is sort of the most basic way to say many, or numerous, or countless. So
There
here,
are many chores.
is that a question for us or just somebody? Okay. All right, so here's 5 words. Don't use these. Just absolutely don't use these. Start out, you might, when you write your first draft, you might have these words in your first draft. That's okay. But then before you hand in your first draft, when you go over it and you proofread it, change them. Change those words. Take them out. If you don't do it, I'll do it. So it's not critical, but that's what you want to adjust. Stay away from those 5 words to begin with. Then we have a few words that you should use less frequently. I can't tell you not to use them, but I can tell you not to overuse them. And that's the first one, and. We need this word. It's our chief word for joining 2 things together, right? So we need it. Jack and Jill went up the hill, right? You need it in a list. The man went to the store, bought fruit, apples, pears, and oranges. You need to use the word and. You need to use the word also. You need to use the word as well. But you don't need to use these exclusively. You can certainly use words such as these. And what I'll say to you is, don't use and at the beginning of a sentence. At the beginning of a sentence, definitely use these words. Right? Don't say, and so he went to the store. Say, furthermore, or consequently, comma, he went to the store. So don't use and at the beginning of the sentence. Use one of these. There are others. There are lots of words to mean and at different places. And you can see there. Moreover, you can use these words in the middle of a sentence as well when you're connecting sentences, connecting ideas, but certainly don't use them at the beginning of the sentence. If you do, I'll point it out to you. Similarly, here's another. So and is a conjunction, but is another conjunction. If this is and is the chief conjunction we use for putting ideas together, but is our chief conjunction we use for separating ideas. I don't really want you to use this word. Here are any number of words you can use. We have lots and lots and lots of words to mean but. Yet is a perfectly good word, even though it's only 3 letters. It's not the length of the word. It's the it's the fact that people overuse the word but. And once again, I'll say, do not use but at the beginning of a sentence. Look at all the alternatives we have, and they all mean but. However, although, nevertheless, on the one hand, on the other hand, nonetheless, conversely, then again, in spite of this, right? All of these things mean the same thing. So do these, other than, except, excluding, and there are many more. And one of the things that you need to do when you're a writer is you need to use words use different words to say the same thing. If you recall, when I went over the words that go, the sentences that go in the essay, especially in the conclusion, I indicated that you need to paraphrase some of your sentences. Well, one of the ways you paraphrase is by using synonyms, words that are different and have the same meaning. Well, this is a whole list here of synonyms for the word but. So I say to students, you should use the word but once in your essay. And there, but meant only, right? Okay, so use these words instead of but. When you want to paraphrase, use a thesaurus. A thesaurus, as you probably know, is a list of words that has synonyms and antonyms. Words that have the same meaning as other words, words that have the opposite meaning of other words. When you're paraphrasing, you will need synonyms and antonyms in order to help you paraphrase. I've just given you a small list here to illustrate what you can do instead of using the word but, instead of using the word and. Really, you should use those writing tools, such as a thesaurus, to help you find other words that have that meaning. Now, anybody know how many words there are in English language? Didn't I ask you this last time? Right? I told you, there's 1 million words in the English language.
1 million?
1 million words in the English language. You know how many words are in my vocabulary? I've been studying English for many, many, many years, read hundreds, if not thousands of books. So maybe in my vocabulary, maybe I know 70,000 words. Maybe, if I'm really smart, maybe I know 70,000 words. Well, 70,000 out of 1 million is 7%. That means I don't know 93% of the words in the English language.
And I know less than that, so that means I know nothing.
Well, it's not nothing, but yes, that's my point. The average adult went to school in the United States, grew up in the United States, throughout high school, everything. The average adult's vocabulary is somewhere between 30 and 40,000 words. So it's not nothing. So the idea is when you are here in college and you're learning to write, one of the things you should do is learn some new words. And one of the ways you do that is by using the dictionary, the thesaurus, to help you to find words to express yourself. You have only a certain, since there are so many words in English, that means that we have words that are tailored for every single certain circumstance. So you should reach for that. When you're writing, especially this class. In this class, I will never, ever, ever penalize anybody for using the wrong word or using a new word incorrectly. Try not to do that on your second draft. Try to do it for your first draft. But definitely you should experiment with words in this class. Use that thesaurus. Try to find words that enable you to express what you're saying more clearly. The more you can learn about words, the more words you can learn to use, the better communicator you will be. And so this class, one of the things to do in this class is to experiment with that. I know you're all busy and you have a lot to do and everything else, but when you're writing your essays, when you're trying to express that thought that you have, don't be afraid to consult the dictionary or to consult the thesaurus. We have online tools, and see if you can't express it in a way that really, hits a nail on the head, that really expresses what you want to say as clearly as you can. All right. Once again, I never penalize anybody for doing that in this class because you're supposed to be learning that stuff here. You're supposed to be experimenting with that. Similarly, in terms of your writing technique, you already write in a certain way. You wouldn't be here if you couldn't write. But the idea here is for you to think about different ways of writing and different ways of expressing yourself. I've given you a formal pattern that you can follow, right? And you can follow that exactly. But there are many ways to follow that formal pattern. You can write sentences in many different ways. So I encourage you to do that, just to experiment, write in different ways, write in ways that seem to express what you have to say. We'll be thinking about different ideas, different critical thinking terms, things of that nature, and you might be thinking about them in different ways than you've thought about things before, hopefully. and that might require some additional vocabulary for you to learn some new words. We'll take a look at some new words. We'll go over some new words. We'll experiment with words together. But I just want you guys to be open on your own to doing that and not think that that's something at all that you shouldn't do. Okay, just a few more of these. Here's a word that's definitely overused, the word just. And really, we should save that word just for the concept of justice, especially these days, right? Everybody's talking about social justice. We'll talk about justice, and we'll explore the meaning of that word. But as you know, the concept of justice is an important word, an important idea. It hits home in everybody's life, and we should really reserve the word just for when we're talking about justice. That person is a just man, or that law is a just law, something like that. But here are many of the informal ways that we use the word just. This is one of those words that easily sneaks into your informal communication. Right? I just did that. Right? I did that, and here I recently did that, or I did that just it's hard sometimes to express it without saying the word just. So you can see how it can fit in there. Or I want just one. And there just means only one, or merely one, or simply one. Whoa. Okay. So what you want to do is to take that word just out of your formal vocabulary, except when you are expressing something relating to the idea of justice. Look at there's a lot of different meanings here for the word just. I want one just like that, meaning I want one exactly like that, or precisely like that. Yes? So think about that when you're writing. Again, when you're initially writing, you can use all these informal words. Before you hand in your draft, review your writing, take a look and see if you have used any of the informal words, certainly the ones I'm giving you now, and replace them with their more formal counterparts. There are not any words here that you don't know. You know all of these words. It's not that you don't know the words. That's not what we're talking about here. You're not learning vocabulary by substituting exactly for just like that, exactly like that. That's not learning new vocabulary. That's just using more exact, more clear, more precise vocabulary. And so that's really the exercise here. Take words that you already know that are informal and use words that you already know that are the formal equivalents. All right, there's not that many. There's 5 of them up there. Get, like, so, to, a lot of. And down here, there's another bunch. And, but, just, and here's another one. Since. Often we use the word since to mean because. So we shouldn't do that in formal writing. Use the word because. One of the things that happens when you switch from since he was correct, or since he was, and you say because he was, then I tell you another rule, sort of, which is don't start sentences with because. I said don't start sentences with and, don't start sentences with but, don't start sentences with because. And often we start sentences with since. Now, the only time you want to use since is when it's related to time. Since last week, since you came to college, don't use it to mean because, just use it to mean here, from the time when. That's the proper use of the word since. Otherwise, use another alternative for the word because, for the word to mean because. And with this one, don't start sentences with because. So when you move from using since to mean because to using because to mean because, it also means that you have to change your sentences and not start with the word because and put that causal agent inside the sentence rather than start the sentence with it. And if you think about that, That's really the way logic works. You shouldn't be saying, because it is raining, I'm carrying an umbrella. It's really, I'm carrying an umbrella because it's raining. That's the logic there. Now, I know you could say it means the same thing, but I'm recommending to you, don't start sentences with because, don't start sentences with and, don't start sentences with but. One of the reasons I do this is because of my experience teaching students to move from informal to formal. Part of my experience is that students are very comfortable starting with because, and what I want to do is get you out of your comfort zone and move from informal to formal. So I want, even if it's your habit to do it that way, I want to change your habit when you're writing formally to that more formal habit. So I say, don't start sentences with because. It's not grammatically wrong, all right? I was going to shoot you about it, but that's my recommendation. This is the last word I have on the list. This is our chief word for action. We do everything. And since we do everything, there's a verb for everything that we do. I'm not exactly sure how to say do the laundry differently, but all these other words here you know, and they certainly can replace the word do in many sentences that you might write. So stay away from the word do. One of those little words, one of those verbs that doesn't really communicate exactly what the action is that you're trying to state. And so I say, use one of these other words instead. Okay, I will definitely send you this list. What we did today was 3 things. We looked at formal structure, we looked at formal voice, and we looked at formal vocabulary. Those are the 3 things that you need to focus on most as you begin learning how to write in a formal way. I have a lot of more formal things to show you, but all of them are these very specific things. Just as the list that I gave you was very specific. It's got certain words on it, and that's it. So next time, we'll take a look at some of the other kinds of things you need to do when you're writing in order to make your writing more formal. I really just want you to, today, I just want you to be thinking about, between today and Tuesday, I want you to be thinking about the structure of formal writing, formal voice, and formal vocabulary. Now, I know you're doing the discussion boards. The discussion boards, you do not have to write in a formal manner on the discussion boards, since mostly you're expressing your opinion there. But you could start to practice the formal ways of expressing yourself in the discussion board. You could, for example, use the more formal vocabulary. That's something that you can easily do, since really you know those other words. You just have to practice staying away from the ones that I said are the don'ts, right? And do the do's. You're not going to use formal structure in a discussion board, but you certainly could begin to move to the third person. And that's a little trickier in a discussion board circumstance because we're asking your opinion about human nature. But on the other hand, instead of writing, I think all people are different, you could just write, all people are different. And that's third person. That's an expression of truth rather than an expression of opinion. So I encourage you to practice using the more formal vocabulary and practice using the third person voice in the discussion boards. And of course, I'm going to ask that you definitely use third person and formal vocabulary in your writing and your essays, and of course, the formal structure. So let me ask, any questions about this? Have you thought about this way before? Has anybody said this to you before like this? Do you hate it? Yes. Good. That's good. Okay. Okay. Anybody have any issues with the discussion boards that you've been working on? Anything else? Hopefully you're starting your other classes okay, right? I know we start a little intense with this stuff. I will send you the notes, and I'll send you that do's and don'ts list. And next time we'll take a look at a bunch of other specifics about your writing.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you. Thank you, mister.
Okay.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you. Have a good day. Enjoy your
I'll see
weekend.
you all. Okay.
Bye.
I'll see you all on
Thank you.
Tuesday. I'll
Bye-bye.
send you an email about and with the Zoom link and
There you go.
everything.
He's my favorite teacher.
Right.
This is his
Thank
favorite.
you.
Have a nice day.
Have a great weekend.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. Enjoy your
Wait,
weekend.
hello?
Hello. Bye. Hello.
Stay,
Bye.
ask a question.
Hello?
Anybody who wants to stay and ask a question, that's fine.
So
Okay.
quick question. Oh,
Just
you can go
one-
Go
ahead.
ahead.
one
No,
at-
go ahead.
I just want to say, like, I was scheduled for the 5:45 class, but since I came to this one, I don't have to attend the 5:45 class, correct?
That is absolutely correct. I'm going to roughly do the same stuff. I can't do it word for word the same way, but I'll do the same things in the 5:45. But you're fine.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Okay, sure.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, and hello?
Yes.
Hi,
My
Mr.
question was about,
Who's that? Jade?
yes, my question was about the discussion board. We only had one question so far, right?
There's only going to be one question for each discussion board. There's not one every week, but for the first 10 weeks, we do the discussion board. Yes, it's only one question, answer that,
Okay,
and then I'm sort of asking you to respond to one other.
okay. And you're sending the notes today or tomorrow?
I'm either late tonight or early tomorrow morning.
Okay, take your time. Enjoy your weekend.
I have this other class, so I like to go through the other class before I do the notes, but sometimes I add things.
Okay.
Professor, did you take attendance yet?
Hello, Professor.
I took attendance. Everybody's here.
I'm not sure if you took my attendance because I came like a minute late.
Oh, right. I don't call the roll. I have the list here of everybody who signed in, so.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Bye, mister.
Bye.
Remember, posting.
Join the discussion board. Are we commenting under one thread, or like are we like doing it all like separately?
Either way is fine. If you can create your own thread, you can. If you just post under the one thread, that's okay.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Enjoy your weekend.
Okay.
The discussion board, is that on the Blackboard website?
Yes, the Blackboard, you might have missed that the first time. The Blackboard website has a discussion board, and there's announcements there, and also there's a content area, and I will post things in the content area as well. So for example, I'll post them, not only will I email the notes to you, but I'll be posting them in the content area too, so people can refer to them there.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.
What was the attendance again?
If you attend the Zoom class, you're here. If you post in the discussion board, you're here. If you hand in your essay, you're here.
Okay, thank you. Bye. Have a great day.